Again, very much support this approach, but just a couple of observations without going over the same grounds. The ability of communities to extract value from community benefits which are provided on the face of it at the goodwill of the wind company is extremely varied. If they have, as communities, the right negotiation skills, they can be extracting £5,000 a megawatt, but the range is down to a few hundred thousand for an entire life of a scheme. In some cases, at best, a community gets an extension to its village hall as a one-off rather than as an income stream. And I think we need to move away from communities seeing that particular renewable energy source as a one-off gift through to an income stream. To get them there, they need to have better support in terms of negotiation skills, and that needs some interface. Some of the interfaces out there, the experts that allegedly provide this, if you look, they're funded by wind utilities, and they tend to be the ones that say £1,000 a megawatt is about max you'll get, mate. But look across Scotland, and 5,000 is becoming more and more well used. But you need to then look at the wind resource and work the economics through. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So really a plea there for communities to get better at this, but they need some help, and that doesn't just happen overnight. PV, huge opportunity. When we say, oh, Scotland has too much cloud, it's too rainy, it's too cold, crap, it has daylight. That's all PV essentially needs. I asked Scotland Chief Procurement Officer as to why we hadn't got a framework agreement for buying PV on behalf of all local authorities stroke public sector in place some time ago. And I think he was accepted that, well, that'd be a good idea. Because we've got it for electricity, we've got it for gas, it's moving into heat now as we speak. But if the public sector was to be able to wade in with a known demand that the suppliers can start to build up to, that does huge things for everybody, because it creates the demand base for the companies to expand in this country rather than just simply relying on people coming up from long distance from Newcastle or wherever else to supply and fit. So it supports local economies in terms of that detailed level. Well, I don't think we're ever going to get PV manufactured in this country. We lost that game 20 years ago. Supply and fit is where there's huge opportunities. But more importantly, if you start to drive down the base price per unit through bulk purchase, you and I as individuals are going to benefit from that. And that's where these various renewable industries need some continuity of market message given by, preferably the government first, because it's the biggest buyer, and then we can all benefit from that. And I just finish with, there are a few organisations in the borders which are beginning to do bulk purchase, and PV is one of them, and it's for farmers in that particular case. And they've halved the cost of installation, supply, fit, wiring, the lot, through just a relatively small buying group getting together. Just think of that, if you were to do that across Scotland, across the public sector, and then wind that up to different communities. Enormous potential to really drive down the cost and then bring back that payback period to what's actually affordable to you and I. If we're looking at a 12-year payback with grant or whatever it is, most people stay in their houses about 5 years. Perhaps that was true in pre-recession, but it is beyond most people's foreseeable time that they're going to benefit from it, so don't bother.
Can I say something incredibly quickly here, which is, to me, this is testimony to the failure of the public sector in Scotland. I mean, this is shocking. This can be done by farmers in their spare time. This can be done by transition towns who in Linlithgow are bulk buying already for all the other transition towns with PV. You don't need to hire in expensive consultants that are also working for the wind industry. You could go to Westray, Neilston, Egg, Fintry, any of the development trusts which are not taking 10% handouts from other companies. They are sole developers. You know, this is get with the times here. In the failure, the chronic failure of the public sector to move anywhere near fast enough with what's possible, people have just got going. And you know, I don't want to hear another call for umbrella groups, facilitators or enablers. Every community is ready to rock, and all that's happening is that the public sector is stopping it.
As the chair and a member of the public sector, I'm going to resist comment, but I do agree actually.
Go for it.
If I may, this is something I do know something about. I agree actually that there's a huge opportunity with renewables. I think there are examples where if you do it badly locally, you'll regret it. So that's part of what SEPA tries to do, is to make sure that that doesn't happen. But generally, I'd agree with both members of the panel. I think there's an enormous opportunity here, and we've only just started. Really, so the things I read in the papers about huge expense of renewables. Well, that's because we've only just started, and just watch this space. It's going to be an enormous opportunity, and I hope it's one for communities too. I want to finish with one more question, which I happen to have selected, which happens to be from my sponsor as well. Isn't that another complete chance? It's from Sandy Telfer of DLA Piper. Just one, a controversial one, hopefully, to finish on.
Well, I don't think it's going to be that controversial, given some of the comments we've heard this morning. Sandy Telfer from DLA Piper, we're delighted to be asked to sponsor this event. My big idea is a local Tesco tax. The only development that's happening out there in Scotland at the moment, sadly, doubtless, is the supermarket operators. We do have the wind farmers, of course, operators, but the supermarkets are the ones that are driving development proposals in and around most local towns of Scotland. Now, just a couple of months ago, I appeared at a local plan inquiry up at Stonehaven. And the big concern for the local community there was that a supermarket operator was looking to have a large out-of-town centre supermarket sited about a kilometre away from the town centre. The big concern, of course, was they've got a pretty vibrant and vital local town centre there, and the concern was the trade draw would ruin it. Now, of course, what happens in these public inquiries is that retail impact assessment is prepared. And every big Tesco or every other big supermarket operator, you'll see a retail impact assessment will have been carried out. Is this the best location for this size of development? Will it have an adverse impact, a significant adverse impact on the local town centre? And if that supermarket is there, then clearly the decision that's been taken by the local planning authority, or indeed the national planning authority, if it's an appeal, the decision that's been taken is that it's not, the impact's acceptable. Now, what invariably happens is that 5 years down the line, when the real impact and trade diversion has been seen on the ground, is that you see local shops within the town centre closing down. Now, my big idea, such as it is that we just need to change the Scottish planning policy on the use of planning agreements, Section 75 agreements, public contract between the local planning authority, the bids managing team could come in as a party to it. We change it to allow the supermarket operator to be required to come back 2-3 years down the line and demonstrate that it is still the case that there's been no adverse impact on your town centre. And if in fact it's shown that there is, then the supermarket operator at that local level should be required to pay a financial contribution to the bids team if necessary to allow them to utilise that money to regenerate the town centre. And it puts the onus then on the supermarket operator to ensure that there is really a robustness about these retail impact assessments, because Leslie's pointed out, if a supermarket operator employs a consultant to prepare a retail impact assessment in 99.9% certainty, you'll get a confirmation that there will be no adverse impact. So that, I think, would put a bit of rigour into the system. And it's easy enough to do. All we need to do is to make a change to one particular section in the 1997 Planning Act to allow, for example, the bids teams in each local town centre to be able to enter into a good neighbour agreement with a supermarket operator to allow them to take monies and utilise them for purposes. And that would be the basis of, as I say, an analysis of the robustness of the retail impact on a regular basis. So that's the big idea.